Siomra
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to On Siomra. Welcome back to the digital tiny room. I am the Michael of Michaelandbenjaminspodcast, and I am joined, as always, by the man who, in contrast to this week's topic, is never changing. It's Benjamin J. Colopy.
Hello, I likes what I does and I sticks with it. I don't do any kind of change, Michael. I don't like change. Just leave me in my tiny room to be as I am.
Okay, I will. Benjamin, we're also joined this week in kind of unison, Ben, in unison with the week's topics. We're joined by the man who is ever changing. Yes, it's Dr. Stephen J. Cadwell.
Hello, hello, hello. That was my three different voices from three different faces. Because I'm changing. I'm in perpetual motion.
It's good. I like it. Do you want to hear something that never changes, lads?
Yeah.
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music.
It was the theme music, Ben. It was the theme music. It caught us off guard. Benjamin and Stephen. This is going to be difficult for me now to do that. Benjamin and Stephen, have you seen any bloody trailers for anything this week?
We bloody have, Michael. You know we have, Michael. Michael, if I was to say the word toasty, what would it mean to you?
Well, in the West, Ben, it would be a kind of a toasted cheese sandwich. You might have some hang on it, Ben, and make it a hang sandwich.
It would indeed. It would. You are perfectly correct.
For me, I think I'd have to smash the Y button or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
That's good. Let's never leave the remote with Stephen in a pub. So, anyway, what came out this week, Michael, was, of course, the Mortal Kombat trailer.
Now, Benjamin, hold on a second. This has snuck up on me, Ben.
Yes.
Like, I knew this was happening, but I thought it was way down the line, and it has just appeared out of nowhere, like Scorpion appearing behind you after he teleports off the other side of the screen and then punches you in the back of the head.
Gotcha.
And then Ed Boon appears and goes, Toasty!
Yeah.
Is it Ed Boon or John Tobias who does that?
I couldn't tell you.
We're not that deep. We're not that deep in the Mortal Kombat lore.
No, we're not hardcore Mortal Kombat fans, I don't think, are we?
All right, well, yeah. Well, I mean, we've heard of Ed Boon, though.
I haven't.
The creator of Mortal Kombat, Ben.
Okay, I see. So, Michael, this came out, and the reason it probably snuck up on you is it hasn't got that many big names attached to it. I watched the trailer, and this is probably me and my own flaws, gentlemen.
Yeah.
But I watched the trailer, and I went, okay, I recognized nobody.
Right. So you would have probably been more excited if there was a Margot Robbie in it.
I mean, yeah, I would have watched a Margot Robbie.
Yeah, or if there was Simu Liu.
Yeah, sure, that rings a vague bell somewhere in the back of my brain.
He's doing Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Well,
he's doing Shang-Chi.
It might be very clever budgeting, because if you think about it, if they put in a Margot Robbie, there goes half their budget. Whereas if they stack the ensemble cast with loads of TV actors and less high budget actors, then they can spend more money on visual effects and, sets and costumes
and it does look expensive.
Yeah, it looks really...
It looks like a very, very high budget fan film.
That's exactly what it looks like. I could not have put that better. It looks like a high budget fan film.
And who are any of these people?
Well, I'm there for it. I'm queuing up in my sitting room to...
That's probably where you get to watch it, because it's coming out on HBO Go.
Oh.
So it's going to be released in full on their streaming service.
So the trailer, I thought the trailer looked very good. I thought Scorpion's powers looked very good. I've always wondered what happened to Jax's arms.
It turns out it was Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
So we know now. But here's where it loses me. It loses me in the IMDb description.
Oh.
All right, I'm going to read it out to you.
Okay.
I can't do the movie trailer voice, but you're just going to have to imagine I am.
Okay.
All right. MMA fighter Cole Young seeks out the Earth's greatest champions in order to stand against the enemies of... no, boo.
What? Who's Cole Young?
Who's Cole Young? And how's
Cole Young?
How's an MMA fighter going to save the world? I don't like where that's going.
Where is Jonathan Confinement in all this?
Very good.
I know, it's very good, isn't it?
It's Johnny Cage. That's actually quite clever. That's one of my favourite jokes that you've ever done, Ben.
But yeah, he's not there. I didn't see him in the trailer, lads. I wasn't impressed.
Sonia Blaze is definitely there, though.
Yeah.
Yes, she says her name. I'm Sonia Blaze. It was very helpful in understanding exactly.
A lot of them seem to say their name, so as to kind of guarantee, oh, don't worry, there's characters from Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that you've heard of.
Yeah.
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 Don't worry, there are characters that you've heard of. There's Kano. He's from Australia. He's going to say Australian things. I'm back in now.
You got me again.
Yeah. I was out for the MMA thing. I'm back in for Kano saying fair dinkum smash him or whatever he says.
One of the things that caught me off is the dubbing in the Sub-Zero Scorpion fight where they just lash each other's catchphrases
Yeah.
in the face. I was just like, are people going to come and see this because they love the kitschness of the 90s movie, the 80s movie, the 90s movie?
90s.
Not that old.
Of the 90s movie? Are there that many hardcore fans that just want to go and see a live action version of their characters say their catchphrase? Is that a thing?
I would like if they moderned it up and they put a modern twist on it and they kind of added somewhat of an irreverence to it. So they had Scorpion say something like, "Get over here, you fucker." That'd be good.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of "you weak, pathetic fool," it could be "you little bitches."
Yeah, get over here, you little bitches.
But as a fan of as a card-carrying member of the pro wrestling fan community, I can say most pro wrestlers and pro wrestling fans like Mortal Kombat, and there'd be a big crossover there. So I'd imagine a lot of people will go up, particularly if they know it's going to be the kind of thing where you can hear the catchphrases and see, Scorpion fight Sub-Zero, and you can kind of really relive the dream matches of the mid-90s. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to set the box office on fire, but again, it's it's going to be on telly, so
yeah, it's one of those early, it's Q1 releases. It's Underworld Blood Wars.
Yeah.
It's I, Frankenstein. It's a Resident Evil 9. It's filling that gap.
Yeah, exactly.
But isn't it nice to see a Mortal Kombat thing? What the people who like Mortal Kombat, they want Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
That's what they want. And
Yeah.
then every American film has been like, nah, let's focus on the American characters like Sonya Blade and Jax. And it's nice that this one seems to have a little bit more focus on the cool characters that everyone likes. It's like how in the Street Fighter movie, it was weirdly not about Ryu and Ken.
Yeah.
Or as we called him back in the day, Ben, Ryu.
Ooh.
I will only call him Ryu until the day I die.
Because that's how you say
That's
it.
his name. His name's Ryu.
That's an interesting rock to perish on, Stephen. But okay, fair enough. Yeah, so, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Assumedly, a lot of these actors that I couldn't place are fighters of some kind.
I'm looking at the IMDb, Ben. I don't recognize a lot of the names. I don't know who Allison Young is going to be. Oh, that's the character name. Or Emily Young. I think they're someone's relatives. Yeah, but it's Kano, Sonya Blade, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, Jax, Liu Kang, Cole Young. Who the hell is Cole Young? Get out of here, Cole
Just a
Young.
character made up for this particular movie, Michael.
Yeah, all characters are made up, Ben.
What's the name of the guy with the forearms? My brain is frozen. Like Sub-Zero. No.
Oh no, the big scary
the
monster.
Goro. He looks great in it. He looks great. Like when I saw Goro in it, I was like, yes, now
Sold.
they have guaranteed my bum on seat. It's happening.
I'll probably watch it from a combat crouch position.
Just ready, just in case.
Just ready to jump up and kick someone in the head.
Do you think, Mick, they might be doing the having him an MMA fighter because of the whole thing in China with the MMA lad going around beating up all the Tai Chi masters and the...
No, I doubt it. I honestly don't know why they have him an MMA fighter. There's nothing worse than... Well, there's lots of things worse. The disease AIDS. But for me, in entertainment, there's nothing worse. Don't make me laugh at my own joke.
Sorry.
There's nothing worse than
Coffee went up my
nothing
nose there.
worse than there's nothing worse than an MMA fighter character in a movie about traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
Because in order for the fight scenes to work, the MMA fighter has to throw punches like it's a traditional martial art. MMA isn't picturesque. And it's often not that interesting to watch if you don't know what you're doing. So MMA fighters in martial arts movies often just become guys who stand like that and do big wide swings and do headbutts and do a takedown. And then on the takedown, they snap the arm in an armbar and get back up straight away and the guy's arm is fine. What'd you do that for? It's
more of a chiropractor.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the MMA series, Never Back Down.
No. Pass me by.
There's a great line in it where his girlfriend says, "Are you walking away?" No, she says, "Are you giving up?" And he says, "I'm not giving up. I'm walking away." And she says, "Same thing." But anyway, in Never Back Down 2.
Oh.
Never Back Down 2. Never Back Down 1 is quite a good MMA movie, but Never Back Down 2 is directed by J. Michael White.
Oh, yeah.
And he is a martial artist with an interest in MMA.
Okay.
But it brings martial artists in it, and you start getting like 60-kilo girls beating up 120-kilo men with, kicking them in the hand as they throw a punch sort of nonsense. So that's why I don't like MMA characters in martial arts movies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, from one set of poor choices, gentlemen, to another brand new set of poor choices. Did anybody see the trailer for Bloody Creulla?
Is it called Bloody Creulla?
It might as well be. It might as well be. This is an interesting choice. The Devil Wears Prada, but if Anne Hathaway was an absolute prick.
Interesting you've said that, Ben, because Glenn Close was in The Devil Wears Prada, wasn't she? And she also played...
It was Meryl Streep, I believe.
Oh, it was Meryl Streep.
I believe.
Oh, yeah, it was. Never mind then. I'm going to edit that out.
No, you're not.
I am. You can't stop me. I do the editing. You can't stop me. I'm going to edit it out.
So, yeah, this is an origin story for arguably one of the most morally repugnant villains that we've ever had. The woman who literally farms animals to be used for clothing.
Yeah.
No, hold on. I'm going to stop you there. I don't know if she is the most morally repugnant, because that's a thing that people in the real world do.
Yeah.
And often just to make a living, Ben. Some of the villains in Disney are mass murderers who want to, extinguish all of human existence. She just wants a coat.
Yeah, well...
Are you talking about Marvel movies? Or are you talking about Disney? What Disney movies have you watched where they've extinguished all existence?
I mean, look at it this way. Scar is definitely worse.
Oh, did you...
Why, because he killed his brother?
Yeah.
And ate him, apparently. I saw a video about that during the week. There's a scene. There's a scene where Scar is holding what's undeniably a lion's skull and picking his teeth. So apparently Scar ate Mufasa.
Oh, yeah. Bad bloke.
Yeah, exactly, bad bloke.
Okay.
But Cruella de Vil, I can say, as the father of a 5-year-old girl, she, if my daughter was in the room with, Hitler and Cruella de Vil, and she only had one bullet, I know where it's going, and Hitler's walking out of that room.
Well, my question is on your parenting, that you've left her in the room with Hitler and Cruella de Vil and a gun.
We're trying to bring her up to open her horizons. But it is weird. It's kind of like Joker, where they're like, you're looking at it going, okay, so we know the end of the film. We know, it's like Titanic. We know what they're going to become. So now you're asking us to kind of sympathize with them along the way. And, like Joker did that, in its own way. It was successful in some ways and not so successful in others. But with her, you're like, what? Is the end of the film her just saying, "Oh, I really love coats. I love them more
really
than dogs. I've no problem slaughtering puppies." It's a weird choice, but it looks beautiful. The costumes and the art direction look incredible. It'll be a feast for the eyes. But
also Emma Thompson and Mark Strong.
Yeah,
I'm down.
Yeah.
Is Mark Strong in it?
Yeah,
Mark Strong is in it.
Is he playing the Dalmatians?
He's playing the Dalmatians. Mark Strong has reportedly been paid a hefty sum of money to play all 101 Dalmatians. He got lessons from Andy Serkis, and he'll be doing all 101 Dalmatians.
I assume, I can't remember 101 Dalmatians, but in the film 101 Dalmatians, it's in that film she hits upon the idea of having a Dalmatian coat, isn't it?
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
So there's going to be nothing about Dalmatians. It's just going to be an awful fashionista lady who wants to wear fur in this day and age.
Well, except for the trailer, which features Dalmatians quite heavily.
Yeah.
In fact, one scene where she walks into a party and they growl at her.
Yeah. I'm thinking this is a retcon. This is
Maleficent.
Yeah, yeah.
This is an attempt at Maleficent.
Yeah.
Or it's that scene where Joker goes and puts his fingers in young Batman's mouth.
Yeah.
Is she going to put her fingers in the Dalmatian's mouth and make them smile?
Well, to be honest, that'd be better than a grown man doing it to a child. But it's. I mean, Emma Stone's great, and she'll probably do a really a fantastic performance. But I'm just not sure if it's a performance that I'm hugely interested in her arc. Like, I'm not really. There can be no surprise, I think, unless I'm missing something.
I'm very interested in the tagline. Which is
tagline?
I am woman, hear me roar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's what they're going to use as part of their marketing campaign.
That is interesting, Ben.
It isn't it?
Yes. A lot of what you say isn't, but that actually is. That is actually quite interesting.
There go another few feelings that I had. Gone. So yeah, that's the tagline they're going to use. So there seems to be some kind of, a push to be like, oh, look at her taking back her, her power in this situation. She's looked down upon by the rich, snobby elite, and but at the same time, skins puppies.
Yeah, maybe knock that off. Knock that in the head. It's basically like, imagine if Cruella de Vil was Harley Quinn. Wouldn't that be interesting and good?
Well, would it though?
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't that make loads of money? That'd make loads of money. We'll get Emma Stone in it.
She's doing a British accent as well, which is going to be fun. That's going to be interesting.
Look, I probably won't see it, let's be honest.
Michael, I think you'll find we're on a weekly pop culture podcast. And we will, because I've gone and seen things with you, Michael, and boy, oh boy.
I'll tell you what,
it'll probably come out on Disney Plus, and they'll probably charge us €22 for it, Michael. We might not have to go see it anywhere.
There's always piracy. I mean, if we're watching a film about bad people, we might as well pirate it.
Just to send a message that, look, this is the moral you taught me in the film.
Yeah. And, and then in 20 years they'll do a biography about our descent into piracy.
Can you think of any really successful films that have had, like, major anti-heroes? Like, is there anyone's coming to mind? I can't think of...
Well, Joker, obviously.
But yeah, like any kind of...
Angelina Jolie's cheekbones.
Yeah, but she was quite...
They got their own film.
She was quite nice in it, though, wasn't she? Like, I don't remember...
Yes, that's the thing. It's a complete retcon of who she was. It was a thing of, like, oh, you think you know the story.
Yeah.
But you don't, because they changed it to make me the baddie, but they didn't really. That got a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, that did real well.
Yeah, but I'm like, is there any film where the baddie is like a kid's film, I suppose, where the baddie is a boldie, is a boldie from start to finish, and we just kind of follow them gleefully romping through, the innocents.
Didn't they make two films of that at the same time, in that phenomenon of here's two films of the same thing at the same time? Wasn't Megamind and Despicable Me?
Yeah,
didn't they both come at the same time?
Yeah, I suppose Despicable Me. Yeah, he kind of learns the error of his ways by the end of it, I suppose. Yeah. I just don't know. I think there's so many kind of characters in Disney who you'd love to have a standalone film of, or like an origin story, and I just think Cruella is kind of, she's the antagonist. I'm not sure I necessarily want to follow her adventure. Or if they had someone like who was definitely, her assistant, like in a Devil Wears Prada style thing, and it was, a kind of the two of them fighting. That
would be interesting.
That'd be interesting. But...
You could get Meryl Streep.
Yeah. Good thing that we've never mentioned that previously on this podcast.
Apropos of nothing.
Come up on this episode.
Yeah.
Apropos of nothing. Yeah. Look, anyway, though. I'll tell you what. All that talk about 1001 Dalmatians, it's kind of overshadowing the big news of the week, which is that Marvel have the rights back to Jessica Jones and Punisher.
I know they got him back, baby. So what's gonna happen there? Ooh,
Well, you know what I mean. I don't know. Here's what I don't know, and maybe you two pair of international lawyers could tell me this. When you have the rights back to something, does that mean they have the rights to now release something, or does that mean they can now start using that character? What I'm getting at is, could we possibly see maybe a Punisher in next month's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Because they filmed it a while ago, knowing that these rights were going to revert back.
Oh.
I mean, they could have shot footage that might not have been used had they not gotten the rights back, or they could have shot footage in anticipation of getting the rights. That's interesting. I think a Punisher series set mid-snap would be very, very good.
Yes.
Where Punisher was running the streets.
Yes.
And, you know, the regular heroes were gone and someone had to step up.
Yes.
Let's make that.
10 out of
Let's
10
make that.
would watch.
Yeah.
Let's make it. I'd watch that. Get Frank
10 out of 10
Berenthal on the phone.
But like that would also work very well with Jessica Jones.
Yes, she could be also there.
Yeah.
And it would make sense within the, you know, introducing those characters and why they weren't in phase one and
Yeah.
Yes.
But isn't
I love that bit.
Daredevil, what's his name? Charlie Cox, is it?
He's rumoured to be in Spider-Man.
Apparently, yeah, but Spider-Man, I suppose the next Spider-Man, all rules are off, so, you know, you can do it without messing up the universe. But
having said that, young Tom Holland, named after the sauce, not the country, has come out and said that Tobey Maguire and the other fella, what was his name? Andrew Garfield, named after the
Orange Cat.
The cat, yeah. No, I was going to say, I couldn't think of it.
Not the president of the United States.
Not the president, yeah. I think the cat's named after the president, but that's neither here nor there. Tom Holland, named after the sauce, has said that that's not true, that they're not in it.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's known for not being loose-lipped.
Yeah.
He is. He sinks ships.
And Tobey Maguire is a noted bad egg.
He's and I wouldn't be bringing Tobey Maguire into a thing any more than I would be bringing Gina Carano into a thing.
Oh God, yeah,
such mess.
It's all right though. Gina Carano's going to team up with Ben Shapiro, so there's two stable people going to sort things out.
Is that a thing now?
Yeah. She did an interview with him. It's actually quite an interesting interview. If you can kind of put to the back of your mind that Ben Shapiro's a fucking lunatic.
Can I tell you my interesting Gina Carano note before we move on? I don't know if I had mentioned it. So there's only I'm a Lego collector because, of course, you know, I'm a 40-year-old Lego collector. How successful? But
I don't think Mick can say anything.
Yeah, but there's only one Cara Dune set. Oh, very nice, very nice. Mick's showing me. I think it's Lego from Avengers.
It's the Milano from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, excuse me. But there's only one Cara Dune set. There's only one set that has a Gina Carano Lego minifigure, like a little Lego person. There's only one, and when it was $7 to buy just that Lego figure a couple of weeks ago, and then overnight it went from $7 up to $28, just the figure, and you could still buy the. You could still buy the whole set from Lego Europe for like €50 or €60. And so friends of mine, of course, at like midnight on a Saturday night, were chatting about this, and they're all buying it, trying to buy it as quickly as they can. But overnight, it's gone up to be $350 now to buy that same Lego set. So if you have that Cara Dune Lego figure, keep it in the box, because it's just because she's sacked and it's gone and there's no more Lego. You know, there'll be no more Lego Gina Carano. You know, it's now become incredibly valuable.
She should have bought them all up.
That's it.
That would have been good.
Yeah. She'll need some cash.
That would have been good. Let me ask you a very quick question. Are they going to recast her?
The word on the street is it's going to be... What's his name?
Conor McGregor.
No, what? War Machine. What's his name?
Don
Cheadle.
That's not
Don
true.
Cheadle. No, that's
not
the word on
true.
the street. They're going to recast him with Don
Sneaky
Cheadle.
son of a bitch. That's an Iron Man 2 joke.
It's an Iron Man 2 joke.
Jesus.
Yeah. But people like Don Cheadle.
People
Seems
love
like a
Don
good egg.
Cheadle. Don
Seems
Cheadle,
like a
great
good
guy.
egg.
Yeah.
Seems
Great
like a good
guy.
egg.
Lads, moving on from one little bit of multiverse hopping and whatnot onto another thing.
Very good.
The Audacity.
The
Audacity.
Ridiculous. Episode 7, WandaVision. What the fuck?
Right, Ben, do you want to put a little spoiler warning in there? Sometimes you'll invent a little ditty.
I'll try and have a go at one. It's spoilers for everyone's favorite multiverse hopping show. Spoilers.
Very good.
Listen away now.
Right, good job, Ben. That was excellent. The big twist of the episode was the biggest non-twist in the history of televisual twists.
Because we all saw it. Because we all know comics.
What?
Oh,
I didn't.
Stephen's making a face.
I didn't know. I'm not going to say the twist, but
No, you can. You can.
No,
We've done spoiler warning.
I get that.
I have a ditty.
Agatha, everybody knew that?
Everybody knew.
What?
We didn't. Hang on now. To be fair.
We
didn't know she would be the villain.
We did.
But we knew she would be a much bigger character than she is.
You can use the raise hand function.
I'm using the raising hand function. I'm calling BS here. And you know I'm not a man to curse, but BS! You've been saying for weeks about Jerry Seinfeld as Mephisto. You have been pushing everyone is Mephisto. Everyone is Mephisto. At no point did you either of you liars say it's. Oh well, we all know it's Agatha Harkness. Agnes is clearly Agatha Harkness.
Oh, well, we did say way back in episode 1 of WandaVision that Catherine Hahn was cast as Agatha Harkness.
Oh, well, if only there was a function to go check that. I'm not doing it.
I don't have it right now.
But some of the listeners might.
We did do a whole thing on who Agatha Harkness was way back.
We did. I do remember that. But Ben,
we had a
sometimes
little chat about her being a mentor of Wanda and the
yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna say Mephisto was definitely, your money was on him, and
it was.
We all wanted to see Jerry Seinfeld in his white Nike runners and his tight blue jeans, going, "What's the deal with the multiverse?"
That would have been brilliant.
That would have been very good. I'd watch the heck out of that. Still would. Lads, so many interesting little windows opened up here in this episode. One of the things that I will say, one of the things that was very poorly telegraphed is all of a sudden Catherine Hahn's character becomes very self-aware. From a character that had no agency or hint at agency in the previous 6 episodes, all of a sudden, she looks out the window and she interferes in different things. Now, we got one glimpse of it back when Agent Rambo was first in the neighborhood, where she says, where does she live? What's her deal?
Yeah.
Get rid of her.
Her deal. We got that one little hint, but then after that, we didn't have much of a sense that Agatha might be off doing her own thing.
Well, didn't she do the whole thing of, should I take that again? Do you want me to... Remember?
So she has that, but we didn't know if that was something to do with... well, maybe that was clearer to other people. It wasn't very clear to me. For me, it wasn't very built up.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was well and truly swerved, as we say in the wrestling business. I did not see her character turn coming, and it caught me totally by surprise, because I guess I must have missed your few episodes where you talked about Agatha Harkness as the bad guy. But
this is what I'm saying though, and to borrow your wrestling parlance, Stephen, the greatest thing about this, and this wasn't a complaint from me, is it has swerved the, what you would call in the wrestling parlance, the marks. But it has also satisfied the smarts. And also the likes of Ben, who's a smart, is like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Like, great. I thought it was great. I wasn't complaining.
It's incredible.
I'm not complaining in any way. I'm just saying I don't know if it was as telegraphed as it should have been.
What was
then if it was
you go on. You go on.
You go on. You're the guest.
Well, I was just, sorry.
We let guests speak on this podcast.
Sorry for being the guest. I was just wondering what the episode or the sitcom it was referencing was. Was it definitely Modern Family, or...?
It was definitely Modern Family, yes.
I'm not 100% familiar with that series, but it didn't work as much of as well as a pastiche as the other ones did.
So, the reason for that is it split its attention between The Office and Modern Family. The opening credits are a combination of The Office and Modern Family. So what they're referencing in that, and it really confused me. It took all my strength of will not to text both of you going, lads, what the fuck? Because what happens is what they're referencing is straight to camera comedy.
Yeah.
Which became huge in the 2010s. And those straight to camera segments, which are utterly ridiculous in certain aspects. In Modern Family, for example, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Whereas in The Office, we're told why they're being filmed constantly, what's happening, etc. In Modern Family, you're just kind of like, okay, one extended family for 15, long 10 long years. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But it does reference that. It does make fun of that. Vision at one point has his thing of like, why on earth am I here?
Yeah.
And those moments of interruption where another character will interfere in it, that's very Office. And then those long looks at a bizarre joke are very Modern Family. So Catherine Hahn looking at the camera going, what's with these kids? Like on her face. That's pure Modern Family. But it doesn't work as well, I think, and I could be giving them too much credit, but I'm a diehard fan of this show. It doesn't work because they don't want it to.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
This is the part where it starts to just not work anymore.
The other thing, Ben, sorry to cut across you,
Go ahead.
I may add, is it is also the style which is stylistically closest to the modern style.
Yeah.
So it's not as obvious a jump between, we're in the 70s scene, we're in a nowsies scene.
Definitely.
And, if they had done, let's say if Vision had unmind corrupted someone in a 70s episode, it would have been truly bizarre that there were two people from the now times in the 70s times.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen because that sitcom is set in the now times, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's less of a break between the two realities. Yeah.
I liked, my favourite little tidbit was Vision having the realisation that he was sitting around wasting time and then getting up and pushing the boom mic away.
Yeah.
That happened at the same time that he was sitting in the van with Darcy.
Yeah.
And he gets up and leaves that scene and then flies out of the van. And you're like, what order of events has just happened here? When did that happen?
There was a lovely,
so it doesn't make
lovely
sense.
moment just before that as well where Vision scratched his ear, but it was his fake ear. It was his makeup ear. And he's just kind of absent-mindedly scratching his ear. And I thought that was incredible.
Yeah,
Paul Bettany's pulling like a masterclass in he's just great. He's just great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a couple of interesting things that happen with Catherine Hahn. I'm going to put them to you. It's on the Instagram. I have these questions, but I'm going to put them to you as two intelligent gents.
Okay.
So Catherine Hahn is playing Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness, traditionally not a bad egg, but doesn't do the best in terms of she always does what's best for the universe or the multiverse. So in the comic books, the children of Vision and Wanda are fragments, shards. I was about to say shragments. They're fragments of Mephisto.
Oh, Mephisto. Interesting you've brought him up.
And they're demonic and they shouldn't exist. They're bad for the multiverse if they do. So Agatha Harkness in the comics takes them away because of the danger they represent. And she later mind wipes Wanda to spare her the trauma. Now, spare her the trauma being a loose term from Agatha's perspective. I don't know. We could have a philosophical debate about whether that's sparing somebody the trauma or not all day, lads. But is Agatha... one of the interesting things here, Agatha is almost certainly the heel of this particular
very good
thing.
Wrestling terminology. I like it.
Yeah, because I'm gonna get in on it, lads. I'm gonna get in on it.
Ben, I am going to ask you to try and peak mount what's the point here.
Yeah, sorry. So the questions are, is she stealing Wanda's power? Is she using Wanda as a battery? Is Agatha Harkness controlling the Hex? Or is she piggybacking on the back of Wanda's signal?
Don't know, Ben.
Neither do I, but I'm gonna vote battery. I like that idea that she's again. I don't know Agatha Harkness from the comics, but I like the idea that she finds Wanda at this kind of low ebb, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna do something. I can fix it, and by the way, become this mega super, powerful being.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be more interesting if one of her if her motivation was some way altruistic, like if she wanted to use Wanda's reality warping abilities to undo the damage of the snap? Now, I know that people have been brought back, but the world is in chaos, and, people have died, and maybe she wants Wanda to just do a big reset on the whole thing.
So there's a couple of thoughts like going around fan theory wise. Would you like to hear one or two of them?
Oh, go on.
So Agatha's basement is actually the nexus that's referenced in the commercial. Because the nexus is a meeting point across worlds. So the basement is not in sync with the rest of Westview. It's old and it's ancient.
It looked like a much cheaper set.
It looked like a much cheaper set. It did, but it's old and ancient. So perhaps this is actually a nexus within the multiverse, and Agatha Harkness is trying to access the multiverse, but she needs Wanda's kind of power to do that. So that's one of the arguments. She's had limited success, and that's where Pietro comes from.
She went and got him to get a bit
She
of
went
help.
and got him from another
From
universe.
Sony universe.
And uses him in this one. And then there's a post-credit scene, lads, for the first
What?
time. There's a post-credit scene in WandaVision episode 7. Well, it's mid-credit. But first one. Have you seen it?
No, tell me.
I have.
I mean,
Okay, so what happens is Monica Rambeau finds the door to the cellar, the traditional American cellar door.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Pietro just appears next to her and goes, "What are you up to?"
He says,
And it's like,
gonna
ooh,
snoop.
and then it cuts.
Wow.
So Pietro was in the episode, just very, very briefly.
wow.
Very, very briefly. So it's going to be interesting, lads. It's gonna be interesting.
I have no idea what's going to happen next week. I've no idea what sitcom style they're going to reference. I've been racking my brains trying to think of what the big kind of stylistic choices would be. I've no idea what's going to happen with the characters, the baddies, the reality, the circus. None of it. I'm so confused. But I love it.
The real question is Agatha going to get her coat made of Dalmatians?
I mean, that's what we're all tuning in for.
That's what we're waiting to see.
Yeah.
I mean, Emma Stone as Agatha Harkness, inspired casting all around. The only complaint I have, lads, is 1 hour episode, my ass.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
1 hour episode, my ass.
That was
30
only
minutes
ever
of credits.
rumours.
Yeah.
That was only
30
ever rumours,
minutes
Ben.
of,
Yeah.
So we didn't get that. Anyway, lads.
My prediction, Benjamin and Stephen Jimin, is that we're going to have 2 final episodes. This next episode, episode 8, is going to be half an hour of exposition. We're going to find out how Agatha got Wanda in there, where Pietro came from, how they brought Vision back. It's going to be the big exposition episode, and then episode 9 will be the denouement, which is a French word for ending.
Yeah. So maybe it'll be kind of like an exposition-y episode and then a big kind of fighty
Space lasers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, as well, I one thing I'm sure you saw is that the Marvel have guaranteed us new content every week for the rest of the year. So we're going to have between cinema releases, obviously, if the cinema releases go ahead, and the MCU TV shows, between the actual shows and the making of the new Marvel Assembled that they're going to bring out as kind of buffers, we'll be having something new from Marvel every week for the rest of the year, which is very exciting.
About time.
Very, very exciting.
About time. I nearly went back to watching The Flash.
Thank God for that.
Have you seen?
If you want a messy multiverse,
have you seen Disney Plus pushing your beloved Hellstrom? They're pushing
No.
it. Yeah, in every.
Are they?
Yeah, because it's on Star. It's on Star, which is the new Disney
on
Plus grown up tab, and
It's quite good.
Well, yeah, but they're like I keep receiving emails saying you can watch programs like Family Guy and Hellstrom, and I'm like, oh,
mad.
Hellstrom.
Yeah, it's quite good. I tell you what, I saw Agnes when she first landed, and we only saw the bottom of her with her boots and her multi-layered fabric skirts. And I thought of good friend of the podcast, Benjamin, Without a Stitch cosplay. That's going to be a year-long project for her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to see that at a con.
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. We'll do an interview. It'll be
interview.
good. It'll be
She'll
good.
she'll have bloody raw fingers going, I hate this show. Look at all the fucking layers.
Lads,
Yes.
we have spent an inordinate amount of time talking news.
Yes.
There's 20 minutes left in this week's episode. And we're
we'll
here to
stretch
talk
it a bit.
about a very particular thing. And that is shapeshifters in the bloody media.
Where are they?
So my money is on Mark Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
Bill Gates,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and Joe Biden.
So you're on that old QAnon website, are you, Ben?
Yeah, they're lizard people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
this is. You might want to watch where this goes, Ben.
This is not the podcast I signed up to. This.
That's what you guys said. You said you wanted to talk about mass conspiracies and anti-Semitism. That's what you said. No?
Aye.
Is that not what we're
Ooh,
talking?
I
Oh, okay.
I thought my AIDS joke from earlier was a bit close to the bone. But
Anyway, moving on from that, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the good old-fashioned shape-changing. Is it a plane, train, automobile, truck, bird, mammal, etc.? And that's what we're talking about in pop culture. Excellent. Okay. So that's what we'll be talking about, ladies and gentlemen. And we took it from 3 different standpoints. We have the kind of mythological origins of shapeshifters and where they kind of went from. Then we moved into the more modern, relatively old-fashioned yet modern but good shapeshifter archetypes. And then finally, we're finishing up with Mick, who got the discount bin shapeshifters right at the end there. Right at the end.
man alive.
So that's what we'll be taking a look at this week. So,
Well, I think what's most interesting for me about Shapeshifter, I tried to make a film about a shapeshifter 7 years ago. And yeah, it's really hard to make a film about a shapeshifter because the first thing you have to do is you have to decide, well, what are the rules? So you look at rules for other shapeshifters in, media in all its forms, and some of them just don't make sense. And as soon as you, as I'm sure you've all enjoyed this week googling the word shapeshifter, it's impossible to find any kind of solid ground for it. But it just that idea.
very good. Solid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I like it.
It's not uniform. It's always in flux. This bloody definition. But it's the idea. I think for me, what's most interesting is the kind of the psychological aspect of shapeshifter stories, where it's the idea that you might think you know someone and you don't really know someone. So it's tapping into that kind of mild but commonplace paranoia that we all have, where you're like, is Ben really a nice guy, or is he secretly a QAnon conspiracy theorist?
Nothing secret about it.
It's that thing, and I think it's kind of with the whole, the politics in the world kind of being the way it is, the way it's kind of so fractured, and you have people, however many million people voted for Trump, and yet the polls said not so many people were going to vote for Trump because people don't want to admit they're going to vote for Trump. And so, it's that business of, kind of people's, the kind of social face that they present to the world, and then the kind of the inner character. And then what you say is like, well, so are they just shape-shifting? Are they actually just creating this persona that they want us to see them as, when secretly and deeply there's something else, and something not nice, and something kind of evil about them, and they have this incredible power to shapeshift. Why can't I do that? Why can't I turn into?
Seems unfair.
Why can't I grow my beard back instantly? Why can't I shift my face? We all wish. I'm a beardless man.
in fairness, Mick can grow his beard back in about 2.8 seconds.
It's problematic, to be honest. I'm not even wearing a top. This is that woven body hair. Stephen, you made a movie about a shapeshifter called My Girlfriend Did a Green Poo in the Bath.
My Girlfriend Did a Green Poo in the Bath was its subtitled. Yeah.
What was it actually called?
It was called Not Yourself, which is
and what go on, sorry.
No, that was it. It was just a gag, because I made it when I lived in Galway, I was part of a filmmakers collective down there called the Little Cinema, and they used to run an open mic night for films every month, and they would we used to make films and work together, and we made a little short film there called Not Yourself, and it was supposed to be about what if your girlfriend is not, you just wake up one day and your girlfriend is not herself. And just because people in Galway say yourself a lot more,
yes.
in Dublin we
Very
say you, and they say
Yeah.
yourself. So it was kind of like you're not yourself was the kind of the gag I was playing off. And then I made a medium to low received short film about it. That turns out it's very hard to make good films about shapeshifters.
What were the rules? Funnily enough, on a side note, my nickname in college was Open Mike. But, what were the rules of shapeshifting in that film?
So I didn't want to go. I was very much going for the kind of 70s arty vibe, but it was something in the water. That was my my kind of trope to carry the film, was that characters were always seen with water, and if a character was holding water, that meant they were either changed or changing. So it was this idea of of something in the water, because of course then a few years before that in Galway they had the big water scandal where there was some terrible disease in the water. I can't remember the name of it.
I think it was Guinness, wasn't it? It was Guinness in the water.
I wish. No, it was, but this idea of, you can't trust the water you're drinking, and and so then she the characters played by me, again without a beard, played by me, but the lead character girlfriend then just is not herself, and she acts weird about meat and eating and talking, and then I did a nice traditional unhappy ending for the film, which is good. It's a happy unhappy ending.
Don't spoil it. Go watch it on Stephen's channel.
And you, of course, also played the girlfriend by Shapeshifters.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, that was the wonderful actress Eva O'Mahony, who is a fine actress in her own right, I have to say. But she decided to walk into the sea, by the way, not me. I would never force a young woman to walk into the Atlantic. She said she had this great idea where she was just going to walk into the water, and I was like, I'll film it, but it's
very cold.
It's very cold.
It's
cold. Galway. But yeah, I get me too'd for that nowadays.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. It's interesting that you were talking about the kind of the deep fear of not knowing the people around you, and it's clearly been around for a really long time, because this week I took a look at a lot of the mythology of where this kind of comes from, and one of the places that it really sticks is
in your graw.
One of the places that it really sticks is the changeling myth that we have here in Ireland. And the changeling myth here is pretty sinister when you break it down. Basically, if a mother found that her child was not themselves, as the trope goes, they would suspect that it might be a changeling. And what that is the fairy folk here in Ireland in mythology can't reproduce. They're incapable of doing so. And what they
don't
do
have
is
willies.
They don't have willies. That's never been said, but it's long been held by folklorists and professors of mythology. What?
Just a flat area.
Ken dolls.
Yeah, so they're called the fairy folk, or Ken dolls. That's commonly what they're referred to as. And in this particular case, what they have to do is they have to kidnap a human child and raise it in the fairy kingdom. But to do that without raising a ton of suspicion, they swap them out for a little baby that looks just like them, but it's actually a changeling. And changelings are... Do you have your hand up, Mick?
I do, yeah. Where did they get that from, though?
Where do they get what from? Oh, it's a fairy. It's a fairy that chooses to take the position. So there are a couple of theories. Either the fairy that's put in their place is expressly designed for that purpose, to be swapped out and given a human life. Yeah.
But you've just said they can't have babies. But
no,
that
they
means
have
every
fairies.
time
They have leftover fairies. They've still got loads of fairies.
There's
they
loads
just
of
can't
fairies.
reproduce their own. They just can't reproduce their own, Michael.
Yeah, but if every time they kidnap a human child, they lose a fairy child, then that's just steady. That's even keel.
I suppose, yeah. Sometimes they do one swap for two, so they cut a fairy in half and do that for twins, so they get one back.
Right.
I was very smart logistics. So anyway, one of the ways that you could test that was by putting iron to the baby's foot, but you'd have to hold on to them. Because if you didn't do that, they'd kind of wriggle and try and escape. And if they escaped, you'd never get your child back. And that was the big problem. They'd shoot up the chimney and they'd be gone. So you had to do it, hold on to the little demon baby changeling thing. And if that didn't work out, you never got your child back, which was awful, Michael. Which was awful. And one of the really sinister things that could happen is, obviously, if you had a very overwhelmed mother back in the day... we have a lot of, new mental health resources and diagnoses that go with the stress and difficulty of having a child. You didn't back then. So if a mother had a mental breakdown and couldn't handle their child or the behavior of their child, they might accuse it of being a changeling. And there are some cases where that was taken to its logical conclusion, where they tested the baby with hot irons and things like that to see if they'd react. And it was awful, Michael. Yeah. It was awful.
You've said logical conclusion there, Ben. I don't know if logical means...
Sorry, taken to what was taken as a logical conclusion back in the day. But that's one of the examples we have of them. In other mythologies, as I
wonder, Ben, if autism might have played some part in the creation of that myth.
That's really interesting that you say that, because there was a movie made about 4 years ago, and it's going to escape me. It's set in Ireland, and it's a changeling story about a mother who suspects that her child has been swapped. Now, the child is much older in this, but there's another story in the village that she moves to, and in that another woman murdered her child. Because she thought it was a changeling. So in this area, changeling swaps occur all the time, but we don't know if it's a mother who can't cope with her slightly autistic son, or if it's... go ahead.
No, carry on. This is so that you'll ask me when you're finished saying what you're
sorry,
I'm putting my hand up, Ben, to avoid interrupting.
I'm sorry.
You've misread the social cues there a bit.
So in that particular case, they don't know what's happening, and she comes from an abusive relationship, so there's that kind of mental trauma playing on her mind, and it's really interesting as a film. Go ahead, Michael.
Benjamin, can changelings shapeshift, though? Or do they shapeshift once into the child and that's it, then they're stuck in that form?
They can do baby and back. That's it.
Like the ribs.
Baby got
the
back.
ribs.
Yeah.
So they can transform into a baby, but once they come in contact with iron, it's game over.
All right,
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's just gorgeous. We just got a booty shake there from Michael. But looking at other mythologies, those rules have always been very, very changeable. If you look at Greek myth, all gods are shapeshifters, and it's the same with Norse mythology. All gods are shapeshifters for seemingly no bloody reason other than I fancy being a swan today.
Yeah, I'm going to be a swan. I'm going to fuck that lady.
And unfortunately, in Greek and Roman mythology, there's an awful lot of rape that goes with shapeshifting.
Not great.
So again, not a positive thing. And then that kind of changes. The only difference that I could distinguish is if you're a human shapeshifter or if you start as a human, shapeshifting is almost a transgression. So it's perfectly fine for gods to do it as much as they want, but when a human gains the power of shapeshifting, they do it through some horrible transgression. So there's a couple of cannibalism myths where you consume the flesh of someone to become what they are. There's a few. The biggest kind of example of that really sinister evil thing is from Navajo legend, and those are skinwalkers, and those are shamans or
shamans,
whichever pronunciation. I could be wrong on either end, but they have gained a high access to whatever power they tap into, and they use it to shapeshift into different forms. But then the one that's probably closest to Stephen's interpretation is the doppelganger from German mythology. And the doppelganger looks exactly like someone you would know, and it is their exact double. But if you ever meet your doppelganger, they'll kill you. Doppelgangers are no good. If you meet your doppelganger, one of you has to die. And it's a really sinister myth. It's very strange. And again, that has its roots in kind of cannibalism, exile. Oh, it's really interesting, really fascinating stuff. But yeah, so that's what I found out, mythologically speaking.
And Stephen, where does this feed into popular culture?
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of always been present, as Ben has mentioned. In poetry and in folk stories and stuff like that. But I think the kind of the idea of the doppelganger myth that, as Ben mentioned, that I find most interesting, or that I wanted to talk about today, as opposed to the kind of the werewolf shapeshifter or the shapeshifting as a curse. Is the kind of the idea of the in science fiction with the doppelganger or cloning storylines, and they would probably all come back to the Body Snatchers, which was a novel from the early 1950s, which then became a much better film in 1956, directed by Don Siegel. And we'd all be probably familiar with the idea of the Body Snatchers, or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's actually when you look at it as a film, it's fascinating in so many ways. The rough idea is that you have a doctor who's been away at a medical conference, and when he comes back to his small town, everyone is different. And one of the first ways he notices is that a little boy is running away from his parents because he says his parents aren't his parents anymore. And of course, in that context, then you're immediately told, or if we believe in the if we were in that situation and a little boy says, my mom and dad aren't my mom and dad anymore, you think that little boy is lying or is, deluded in some way. You don't go, oh, that's because your mom and dad are vegetable aliens. And it's,
classic.
Yeah, this is a classic film in the horticultural horror world, which is not a huge set. But it's
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, oh no, there's a few. Day of the Triffids.
Day of the Triffids.
Yeah.
Day of the Triffids.
No, there's a few.
The Happening.
Oh God, I never watched it. Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah, I don't think I missed a huge amount there. But the idea is that it's this guy Kevin McCarthy who's playing the doctor, and he going through his life, and his patients are complaining about not being not understanding who people are or feeling different. And what it turns out is he basically discovers that there's an invasion that has taken place, which we saw at the very start of the film, which kind of makes it harder to suspend your disbelief. But we see plants basically floating through space, so these kind of alien spores, and they come down and they land in this town, and they grow into these vegetable pods, these seed pods. And what happens is they grow a copy. So as opposed to shape-shifting in the kind of the werewolf sense, what happens is that they grow another version of the person and then kill them. And so in terms of, again, it would be very much more in the doppelganger myth. But then the film was kind of probably most famous now as being it's seen often as a metaphor for the McCarthy era, where communist spies were everywhere, is the kind of the attitude that people believe that communist spies would infiltrate Middle America and basically kind of take over. There's very little evidence that this ever happened. The number of spies is in America is apparently like a dozen, during that period. And it was all, this kind of paranoia drummed up by Joseph McCarthy and his gang, who was a very, very right-wing senator in America in the 1950s. Just offhand, by the way, I know this isn't a political podcast, but just to let you know, the man who was Joseph McCarthy's lawyer was a guy called Ray Cohn, and Ray Cohn had a very successful life, and he became a mentor to a young industrialist and property owner called Donald Trump in the 1970s and 80s. And then Donald Trump became president. So
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like there's a massive conspiracy.
Ben, do you know anything about that?
I'll go check the Facebook message groups after this.
But so it's the film was remade then in 1978 with Donald Sutherland, Leonard Nimoy, Veronica Cartwright, who you'd know from Aliens and Witches of Eastwick, and Jeff Goldblum in one of his early body horrors. But the Invasion of the Body Snatchers then in 1978 was even better, if you ask me, because instead of communist spies, it's all about urban dehumanization and how living in a city drives you into this person that's not real. And they do this beautiful thing in the 1978 version where instead of having it as a remake, some people consider it a sequel, because the end of the 1956 version is Kevin McCarthy running down the motorway going, they're here, they're already here, you're next, you're next. He looks right down the lens and screams, you're next, you're next. And then in the 1978 version, he's running through the streets of San Francisco screaming, "They're already here! They're already here! You're next! You're next!" And then he gets hit by a car and killed. So it's like he's been running for 22 years. But the Jeff Goldblum version, or the Donald Sutherland version, excuse me, is even more interesting because the plants force you to go asleep. And when you're asleep, when you're dozy, they crawl up around you and they copy you. But whereas in the 1956 version, it's basically just a pure clone. In the 1978 version, you're completely emotionless. You're docile, but you still have your memories. So everybody still goes to work. Everybody still does everything. Society keeps going. You just are not you. You're just not yourself. You've just become this kind of zombified, dehumanized version. And so in terms of rules, it's really interesting that the only thing that makes us human, as opposed to making us a pod person, is our personality, is our psychological flaws, is the kind of the issues, the troubles, the difficulties we have. And if we remove them, we just become these perfect pod people, conforming and living in this wonderful urbanized society. So I think the two films as a pair really work well, particularly for nowadays in a kind of post-Trump COVID.
You could chuck in Invaders from Mars into that little mix as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's not as good, and it doesn't have the political kind of subtext, but it does have that same paranoid feeling of who's been replaced, who's not who they really are.
Yeah.
My parents are acting weird. My dad put me in a room with Hitler and gave me a gun. I don't think
she'll learn.
I don't think
she
that
will
this is
learn.
normal.
Did you ever see a TV show back in Channel 4 in the 80s called The Invaders?
Yes.
So you might remember that was the only thing that the Invaders couldn't do. It was basically a TV show made by Larry Cohen, who is a terrible filmmaker. No, he's an amazing filmmaker. Excuse me, in case there's any horror fans watching or listening. He made this. He made Q, the Winged Serpent, and Stuff, and It Lives. Awful films in my humble opinion, but a lot of my friends really like them. But he made this TV show in the 60s called The Invaders, and the only way you could tell that an invader was an invader was that they couldn't control their little finger. So they were perfect replicas, again, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but they couldn't control their little finger, so their little finger stuck out at an awkward angle. So you'd always have these great moments in the episode where someone would shake hands and you'd see their little fingers sticking out. They're not a good guy. So
I bloody knew it.
That was great fun.
The paranoia of not knowing if the person is really the person, that's the key to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the key to an interesting shapeshifter. We had a few comments from listeners. For example, at Podcast Wanker said one of his favourites was the shapeshifter from The Boys, who ended up becoming a sex slave.
Oh, God.
But I mean, interesting. I mean, definitely an interesting use of shapeshifting.
Yeah,
he could turn into whoever you wanted him to be.
Yeah.
But it didn't have that gross and horrible paranoia of who's bloody who and who they're saying they are and who isn't who they're saying they are. And the epitome of that is The Thing.
Exactly. Exactly. From 1982. Yeah. It's and it's a perfect example of a shapeshifter where you have it's both a doppelganger and this body horror kind of conversion, where the rules in that aren't as super clear as rules in some of the other stories, but it's the idea that you have this alien life force of some sort
thing,
this alien like thing that's been buried under the ice for millennia, and then it's suddenly brought up, and then it does what it does. It just replicates, and so it starts copying people. And what's interesting about The Thing compared to the Invasion of the Body Snatchers is that in the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like if they're copying Mick's asleep, we make a new Mick, then we kill Mick. We kill Mick Alpha. But if we try to kill Mick Alpha,
it probably won't work.
You know this podcast too well.
What happens in The Thing is that they're simultaneous, so it overwrites you. as it's taking you over, it goes through this horrible body horror yuck, and it overwrites your body, and it becomes you.
Or you become it.
Or you become it, yeah, exactly. It's
or whichever, yeah.
And then you have,
but it isn't clear.
It isn't, no, because then you have the incredible scene with the blood, where this is happening at a cellular level. So everyone's tied up in the chairs, and they have to do MacReady has to do the heated wire in the blood test.
And you know what was funny about that heated wire in the blood test? When Ben was talking about putting the iron on the changelings, that was the first thing I thought of.
Brilliant!
You know, the whole because it goes bah! And then it skitters off up the chimney.
That's fantastic. I'll have to email now John Carpenter and see if that was on his mind.
That's what he could be. You know what I mean? Like if he looked up shapeshifter myths, that's a common one. Like,
Absolutely,
that's pretty big. It's similar to what just to wrap it up, because I think we're miles over time. Are we?
We're not too far over time.
Too far over time. Mick is going to edit out all his mistakes from this week, so it's fine. That should give us about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes worth of extra time to play with. Mick is now flexing at me just to kind of, make a show of me, but it's okay. I'm safe because of COVID restrictions. I'm dreading the day I have to go back into the tiny room, but it's very similar to
Nice flex,
It Follows. It's very,
It Follows.
very similar to It Follows. It Follows is that wonderful paranoia of, is that the person it's supposed to be? And the best thing about It Follows as an entity is it is a shapeshifter in the sense that it takes on the form of people you know or trust or like or maybe don't like in certain cases, but only you can see it. But by the time you realize that something's coming towards you, you might not have time to check if it's actually there. So there's a couple of scenes in that film where at one point the boy at the beginning of the film that transfers the curse to the main character, he says, "Oh man, why is that girl just staring at us?" And the main character turns around and goes, "What girl?" And then he realizes very, very quickly that's the entity that's been following him around. There's another scene where the main character's grandmother is approaching her, and her grandmother is supposed to be dead. So it's a really unnerving moment where it has all the physical limitations of a person because it can only walk in the direction of the person it's following. That's the rule of the entity. It can't move at a speed faster than walking. So there's all kinds of videos on the internet about how you could beat the entity from it.
Just go to Bali.
Get a round the year flight once a year to the other side of the world, and you'd be fine because it takes it that long to walk. It can't get on planes or anything like that. It has to do it in real time. So it would walk under the ocean and do all that, and
Ben, I like doing it in real time.
Yeah, I like doing it in real time. It's great. In general, it's a fascinating entity because it takes on the form of people you might trust. Sometimes it takes on the form of your crush or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and you don't realize because it doesn't talk.
Yeah.
But you don't realize until it's very close to you, and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" And then you're like, "Why aren't you talking to me?" And then you would get a thing similar to Stephen's movie where you're like, "Oh, you don't seem yourself today. Maybe my boyfriend's in a bad mood." And then like, "No, wait, it's an entity that's going to snap my bones." And it's very
absolutely
unnerving.
And what I love about that as well is that it's a curse that's transferred when you've had sex with somebody. So it kind of takes the shapeshifter ideas that we've been looking at and kind of splits it in two. So not only is the person you have sex with is just a regular human. They're not a shapeshifter, but they are a shapeshifter in the kind of the everyday, ordinary sense where they're showing you a persona and they're lying to you just to sleep with you. Like they're trying to sleep with you, and then after they've slept with you, they're a whole new person.
They're suddenly running away from you at top speed.
and not talking to you and not interested in the fact that you're now cursed. And it really taps into that kind of the real life horror of the dating world, where people are always lying and pretending to be other than they are. And it's a really, really good shapeshifter story worst possible, scary, paranoid, horrific
in the way that it just might be true. Oh no. Yeah. So that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think of Shapeshifters overall? What Shapeshifters most unnerved
I don't like
you?
them. I get rid of them, Ben.
Get rid of them. Yep.
Not for you, Michael. It's for the listeners. So overall, what unnerved you most in a Shapeshifter story? Was it perhaps a Donald Sutherland? Was it perhaps a bloody It Follows? Was it perhaps a bloody
X-Files
Skinwalker from Navajo Legend? Or do you just not trust your kids?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Let us know. You can get in touch with us in a couple
Ben,
yeah.
we've also ignored a whole other subgenre of shapeshifters in
go on.
science fiction spy shapeshifters. The likes of your Odos and
Oh,
your
yeah.
Mystiques and your chameleons. Also, we've ignored your kind of science fiction technology relentless pursuit shapeshifters,
Yeah.
like the
Oh,
T1000.
We're going to have to do a part 2, Michael. We're going to have to do a part 2.
There's a lot.
You have to
Part
come
two.
on the podcast again, Stephen.
Well, I didn't even talk about the X-Files, and anyone who knows me for a long time knows me not talking about the X-Files is rarer than me talking about the X-Files. I have to be stopped talking about the X-Files. But yeah, they had a whole big thing of shapeshifters. They'd repeat numerous ones.
Well,
Yeah, maybe a part 2
We're
down
coming
the
back to
line.
this.
we'll just have to do part 2. It's going to have to happen, lads. Part 2. In a slightly different form, maybe. Huh?
Ah!
Yeah, there'll still be a podcast about
Oh, very good.
shapeshifters.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you can find us in a couple of different places on the internet.
Ben!
We're on... Yeah.
Ben, say thank you to our guest before you wrap up.
Oh yeah,
Marvel
yeah. I haven't gotten to that part yet.
I know,
You can
because
find us in different places.
Ben,
So you can find us in different places.
no, Ben,
You can
do the
find us
thank
on
you to the guest
internet.
first.
Are we doing the
Thank you,
ASMR
Stephen.
bit? Is this the ASMR section? Is this the
podcast,
ASMR?
Ben.
Oh,
It's the
Yes,
ASMR.
please. He's taking his headphones off now.
This is
This is going to get longer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to give a massive thank you to Dr. Stephen J.
Benjamin.
Cadwell, who was nice enough
Is
not
this,
only
is this podcast getting longer and harder every week?
no, that's COVID restrictions and lockdown, Stephen. So, we would like to extend a massive thank you to Dr. Stephen J. Cadwell, who not only came on this podcast and put up with us for an hour and a bit, but also gave us the topic for this very week, which is going to turn into a 2-parter. What a win!
What a win.
What a win! Content
Thank you,
gold.
Stephen.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Stephen, where can people watch your films?
Yes.
YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/Cadwell-Jones, which is a name Rachel Dowling calls me. Glop.
Aha.
The original Glop.
The
of
original
podcasting.
Glop. But yeah, if you go to youtube.com Cadwell-Jones /Cadwell-Jones, you can find it. It's called Not Yourself. Evo Mahoney turns in a great performance, as do Fayez and a different Ben who's not that Ben, but they do a great job. But it's not a great film. It's the start of a great film. And
We're going to edit that part out. We'll have no self-flagellation
no,
on this
because
podcast.
I was going to say, if anybody wants to fund me to make it into a feature film, visit my Patreon.
Yeah.
We'll get in touch with Screen Australia.
Yeah.
They'll probably give it a go.
They
They'll give anything a go.
did do anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find that, we'll probably put it up on the Instagram at some point this week. You can find us on Instagram at Seomrabeag, SEOMRABEAG. If you want to find us, we're also on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMRABEAG.
Means tiny room in Irish.
kind of. Oh, fucking hell.
Twice cooked.
Excuse me?
That's it from us this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Bye. It was chaos. Pure chaos.